I'm building on a concrete driveway here, and I'm trying to be very careful as far as scratching it, etc., because I'm not too concerned about really what it looks like when I'm done. I mean, I don't want it to be scratched and gouged and all that, but yet at the same time, this coating here is pretty durable, and it's taking the the abuse of rolling around and kind of dragging a little bit really well. So I'm not too worried about it. But if you were concerned about that, you could take the top of the wooden crate that it comes in and remove the nails so that you don't stab your knees when you kneel down or whatever. And you could assemble this piece by piece on top of that. Piece of cardboard, blanket, anything like that. And speaking of on your knees, if you feel that you would like to have more comfort on your knees, whether it be on the blanket, the cardboard, or whatever, if you cut open your cylinder boxes, I found these two pieces of styrofoam. Now I have a rubber knee pad over here, and I'm just not using it right now. I don't feel like I'm on the ground that long, but nonetheless, if you wanted to use these pieces of styrofoam as your makeshift knee pad, that's one way to go. Okay, so you're going to want to take and tighten this up, but you don't want to tighten it all the way over tight. But you definitely don't want it to have this slop in here like that. If you have your car on here and you rotisserie this and you've got slop like this, it's going to make a lot of noise, it's going to make a lot of movement. So I'm going to tighten this down to where it's just barely touching. I put it on upside down because it made it easy for me. However, now I really got to screw this thing all the way in what would be the up position, or I got to put the jack on and raise it up in order to get this swing around without hitting this main support here. So it certainly made it a lot easier putting it on upside down because I could drop it in and adjust it. But yeah, now I gotta take the cylinder and raise it up to at least get this to flip back over. Well, I've already messed this up. So apparently I wasn't paying attention. I had this pinned in place just to kind of keep it out of my way because it was hanging and dangling in my way when I was trying to screw the up and down part of it. And yeah, I wasn't paying attention and this stretched out the ring. So I'll have to get another key ring or something like that to fix that so that this pin stays with it. But yeah, the only reason why I did put the pin in, this is a safety pin that you're going to put in after you get the car to where you kind of want it, and then you just set it down against the safety pin. That way it's not resting on the little locks and whatnot. And again, it was just dangling. It was in my way when I was trying to screw the rod there, and what happened is it just kept wrapping around. So I just like, all right, I'll get you out of the way. I put it in the hole and wasn't paying attention, and I bent that. So I'll get another one. Alright, so I have reached the point where I have now basically two stands. I got that one there, and I got this one here. And now all I need to do, according to Titan, they call these adapters here the movable stands, is what they call it. I was very, 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 very happy with everything, the way it was going so far, and how fast this thing was going together. But now I have my first major strike against Titan. And if you look at these movable stands here, these are one solid piece of metal here, one solid piece of metal, one solid piece of metal. They're welded on there very nicely. They got powder coating. And then there's this one. Right there. I don't know what happened here. Are they that cheap that they can't, you know, afford to cut a piece of one piece metal? I mean, I don't know. I'm not gonna say that it looks ugly per se. They did grind it down. I did take a flashlight and I did put inside there, and I saw the penetration is deep. They did, you know, penetrate very well. But anybody who knows anything about welding and non-destructive testing will tell you that the welds are going to crack before the metal will. As long as the metal is really good, you know, steel, your cracking points, the points where you're going to crack or break, are going to be at your weld. So I am literally at this point relying upon the fact that I hope this person who was welding this knew what they were doing. I'm hoping that that penetration that I'm seeing down there, because it's a long ways down that tube to see with a flashlight, is in fact as good as I think it is. So I am relying upon the fact that that weld needs to be really good at this point. But because, and then you can see a little bit of porosity right here in the welding. Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna use it just because, first of all, I'm not gonna wait, and secondly, you know, I've seen worse. I've seen much worse, and I also do not plan to abuse my rotisserie. I'm not gonna be jacking that thing, swinging it over really hard. My car is not going to be fully, so to speak, loaded. Won't have the engine and transmission and all that in there. However, I do have video of this whole thing. So my point is, if it breaks off there, and I have proven that, you know, they were too cheap to give me a single solid piece, and if it breaks off there, Titan and I are going to be having a talk for sure. So yeah, I'll use it because I guess they think it's good enough to, you know, they passed it. They put it down there. They put it down their inspection or whatever and said, okay, let's allow the customer to use it. Then I guess I'm going to use it. With that being said, that's really the only strike I have against Titan, is that piece of metal that they welded together there. I just think that's cheap. I think they could have actually put a full-size piece of tubing in there. And then as far as the jacks go, the jacks are what you expect out of these things. They, you know, they jack up slow, but they work, and they're pretty heavy duty. For the most part, this thing is really nice. Would I do it again? Yes, I would. For the building process, for sure. Oh, what time you got right now? So right now it is 12:12, and honestly, I had to stop a few times. My daughter was going to a football game, my boys are mowing the yard, we had to fix a lawnmower, we had to mix some gas, etc. I started again around 9:15 or so, and I basically have all this stuff together now. Again, I've got a lot of years of experience in the machine shop equipment and automotive shops, so I could have probably put this together without the instructions. It would have taken me longer, of course, to piece it, but I think I could have done it. And so, you know, gauging on your experience, that you need to think about that on how long it'll take you. So for me, it was like a 9 to 12 deal, and I'm pretty much done. And then I'm going to also now, after lunch, take some video of us attaching it to that car right there. So stay tuned. They forgot one lockdown bolt, so I'm gonna have to go buy one of those, and I guess that's fine, not that big a deal. I would certainly have accepted that a lot easier than the fact that they were too cheap to give me a solid piece of metal here. So yeah, Titan, I'm talking to you. I just think that's so cheap. But anyway, for the most part, again, it's a really cool setup. I would do it again. The only other thing that Titan, if you're listening, you could do is, I mean, all of the bedroom furniture and, you know, lawn furniture manufacturers, etc., they use these hex-headed type fasteners all the time. And you know what comes with the packaging? That's right, a hex wrench. You could simply throw in an angled, simple hex wrench to be able to loosen and tighten these things. Now, I also understand that, of course, you're probably thinking that, yeah, that thing's gonna get lost, and you're probably right. A lot of people are gonna lose it, but I'm pretty sure that the 20 cents that that thing is gonna cost you would not hurt anybody's feelings if you included it in the package. Now, I noticed that you guys use a smaller one here. This actually takes a 6mm hex wrench to get inside there to tighten those up. I had that on my multiple setup here, okay, but that's the biggest one I've got. So as far as tightening these up, I've actually got a snap-on set inside that I know will work. But my point is that if you look all over this thing, there are those set screws all over this thing, everywhere. And so, since there's so many of them, again, you would think you would include a simple hex wrench with the package to use on those. So, but you know, I'm not too upset about that. And I'm not really even that upset about this, but that is cheap. I don't care I don't care who y'all are out there, that dish should be cheap. That's what that is, okay? So everything's tightened up. I use the impact on everything to tighten everything. Most of the time I was using a 3/8 air impact of this size right here. So it's smaller, but it's got some power to it. And when I had to use the bigger sockets that you know, down here for this assembly right here, I actually had to use the 1/2 inch impact right there. And like I was telling you, when they welded this here, when they welded this area right here, this thing actually kind of bent out on both sides, you know, and that's just typical. I've been in welding situations before, so I know exactly what that's like. And so when I was tightening these two down, you could actually see a gap in here and over there, and so that 1/2 inch impact actually helped me draw those down to where they were pretty snug and now flat. So that was actually a good idea, I think, to use that impact, in my opinion, because if you don't get that flat over the course of time, that is going to become loose. I mean, it will, you know, relax and it will become loose. So that's about all I can say in that regard. But for the most part, this is a really nice unit. I can't wait to get it all hooked up over here on the car and then start tearing this thing even further apart. So as I was saying, stay tuned. We're going to be hooking this thing up, and then I'm going to do the ultimate review, I guess, at the end. Thanks for watching.